predominantly her food. And as prices of food go up, gasoline prices go up, it impacts her a whole lot. Well, what's going to happen in the next year or two, and we're watching this very closely, is those nutritional values are changing, the mix of what we can offer kids. And what I'm afraid of, just looking a little bit at the future, and probably for this next year, is these are the prices that we've charged for meals for the last 3 years. That price may have to go up a year from now because of those reasons. So that's something just to kind of watch for the future, but she's operating this very well at this point in time.
Mike, when we have to increase our price, does that mean that we get more money from the federal government?
That's part of the situation is the federal government requires that these prices over here be a certain percentage of the reimbursement rate that you get over here off the federal grants. And so this is changing, and so we're going to have to be forced to change these numbers along with the food cost impact. So it's kind of a little bit out of our hands, but we'll manage that as close as we can. And then on the last thing here is just these are the debt service payments all the way out to 2037. The critical thing that we did here in the last few months is chop off some of the principal and interest payments from right here in these years when we did that bond refinancing back in May, the board approved. By doing that, it chopped off some of these principal and interest payments, pushed them down to this area right here. What that does is that allows us to maintain that 43-cent tax rate on debt through 2014 right here, based on our assumptions of property growth, which would be very conservative, very minimal. And so we'll be able to manage that tax rate for the next 2 or 3 years. The only thing that would change is if we issue more debt. If we issue more debt, that will change things. And so, but at this point, based on what we know, we can maintain that tax rate of 43 cents. If we had not have done that refunding, we would have gone up, I think it's about 46 cents, 46 and 47 cents for this year. And so that was a good move, I think, on our part. And that's my overview. And I'll answer any questions, or we can turn it over to the public hearing part of it.
That last slide you showed, I have a question. That 2014, it jumps up in 2016 over 30 million. Is that a projection based on
Well, let me explain it, because there's a lot of history here. A lot of the scheduled debt payments that were made all up and down in here were really decided back in 2006 and 2007 after those bond elections. And then at that time, you remember property value growth was going up tremendously in this community. Our financial advisors thought that growth would continue up, and we could finance that debt at those levels at that point in time. Well, because of 2008, the economy downturn, values dropped off. And so this became problematic in funding tax rates and all that because the growth wasn't there. And so that's why we went back a few months ago, refinanced part of it. Probably after the 1st of January, we're going to have to look again and start planning on probably refinancing some of the debt in this area for 2 reasons. 43 cents is one. If we issue any debt, is 2. Number 3 is we need to build some capacity in here if we issue additional debt or have another bond election for other buildings. And so managing the debt and the debt payments here is something we're going to have to look at very closely as we get into January, February, March of 2012.
In a simplistic way, the chart that you see where it's in 216 and 215, 216, that was basically over in the 2010, 11, 2012.
Yes, sir.
That's why it's flat on that other end, so we were able to produce that. Hopefully we'll be able to do the same thing. And
It's all dependent on the markets.
It's all dependent on the markets and depending on what the property taxes do, or what the property values do if they start to go down.
We hope that by this time up here, we're going to get some additional property growth that will offset, and we can just continue to leave it there.
If I remember correctly, when we passed the last bond, we expected our tax rate to go up, and we've been able to maintain it at a lower rate than what we had published.
When we passed the 2007 election, we told our voters at that time that the rate would be at max somewhere 46 to 48 cents. I think is the range we gave.
48 range.
And so we're still at 43. So we've kept it under what the original communication was.
No one will remember that.
No, that's why
Just for the record.
Sometimes memories are short.
So the last two bonds, we've actually published higher numbers than we've actually had to have a tax rate to support.
Some of us have history just because we've been here longer.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, we will now open this up to a public hearing for the proposed budget and tax rate. Would anybody like to speak? This is an open public hearing.
It's rather quiet.
We will close the public hearing. The actual action item was approved. Okay, this is a discussion action item. It's consider approval of the 2011-2012 budget.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2011-2012 budget.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Cuny, a second by Mr. Hamilton. Any questions or comments? We do all know that by approving this budget, in the future, we will need to set a tax rate
To support it.
to support this budget of 104 for maintenance tax and 43 cents for school debt service tax. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the existing tax, correct?
That is the existing
Current tax rate.
Yes, current tax rate. There are no other questions or comments. Everybody for it, please raise your right hand. 5 for, 0 against, and 2 are absent. Motion carries. Do you have anything else?
No, one last thing, I just want to thank the administrative staff, our campus staff, for the hard work that they've done over the last 7 months, and there's been some difficult decisions. I appreciate the board's leadership and helping make some of these difficult decisions to continue to keep our tax rate the same and still be able to protect our students in the classroom and providing them the programs that we need to prepare our kids.
Can I add something before we adjourn?
Sure.
I'd like to thank you, Jeff. You came into this, this is your first year, and what a time to come on board. And there were a lot of tough decisions that had to be made, and you gave us that guidance, and I appreciate it. It's been an honor to serve with you and see the skill and the compassion and the way and the professionalism that was handled. And I appreciate you guiding us through this. I know it reflects on your staff, reflected on your staff, but thank you.
Thank you, appreciate the board.
Anybody that thinks the board took this lightly or that it has been an easy task, I can assure you it has not, but
It's been the hardest budget today,
by far.
by far.
Anyway,
By far.
with that, we are adjourned.